was alone. I was really scared. If he hurts somebody and you don't stop him, then that's on you forever.
I am Grant from Screen Rant. It is great to get to meet you both. How you doing today?
So good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for asking. I'm very excited to talk about Catching Dust. I watched it last night, and it is such an emotional ride from start to finish. Stuart, I'd like to turn to you first. This is your feature directorial debut, excuse me. Yeah. And I'm curious, how you came up with the concept and the characters for this, and what about, this idea spoke to you to want to make your feature directorial debut with this?
It's interesting because, I'm from London and nothing to do with Texas, let alone West Texas. And I think I'm one of these people that daydreams a lot. And for some reason, I was getting these images of a desert. And then I started getting these images of a trailer in the middle of the desert. And I started to become curious about who may live there, why they're there. And just from that initial idea, I built out this story. Maybe there's some subconscious draw to this world because I grew up, loving cinema, and the West is so iconic. But it's difficult I've got to be honest, it's difficult to really articulate why, because it's so different to the world I come from. But
it's probably why.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is. I definitely am someone who isn't trying to make stories about kind of what I grew up in. Although there are themes for sure that are personal to me that I play out with Gina and Clyde, but transposed onto this very different world that I know.
Well, that escape to a different world even comes through with Ryan Core's character, so it kind of works out there. And Erin, I will turn to you next. What was it about Stuart's vision and your character that really sparked your interest to want to be a part of this?
Honestly, it was the overall. Stuart doesn't shy away from taboo anything, and I really love that with individual characters and with plots as a whole. And I think that there are subject matters that we go to the cinema or we go see a film for reasons that entail escapism a lot of the time. But I think it's possible to have that coexist with confrontation. And I feel like we less and less have that as this paradoxical but coexistent set of traits in a film. And I think that Gina on a micro level exemplified that. And I've spoken about this a lot, that scripts like Catching Dust and roles that I've been so fortunate to play, because I didn't write them, right? I'm not the writer behind these characters. I get to bring them to life, and I'm lucky. They're messy, and I love this concept of this hopefully new female character presence in our world that entails mess that is of equal gravity, that the mess is equivalent to her strength, but it doesn't negate her strength. Actually, she's stronger because of that precursor of a mess that she is, and we're all ultimately a mess, but it always felt black and white to me. It felt like it was Captain Marvel or the love interest. And I wanted that I love those hybrid roles. So yeah, defying stereotypes and all those things are kind of what drew me to it.
This certainly feels like it falls, like you say, in that very morally confrontational area that it does so well. And Stuart, I did actually want to touch on that because, like Erin said, we don't see something like this story told too often, as far as the domestic toxicity that's in this film. And I'd love to hear what it was like exploring that from both a compassionate standpoint, in which we want to see these characters grow in their relationships, but also a sensitive one, given that many people are in those relationships in real life and may feel certain ways about how these characters act.
Yeah, of course. I think that as a writer, generally, you're always challenging yourself to find a humanity in every character, right? If a character becomes negative, it becomes reductive, and it doesn't become real. Everyone is human, no matter how barbaric they can behave. So I think that it was the challenge to try and develop and explore that within the script, but then work with talent like Erin and Jai, who understood that was part of their challenge, and they brought so much to it. Because I think if you just look at it on paper, you can try and understand the humanity, but they've got a momentous task to help try and humanize the nuance of this, as you say, quite sensitive topic. And I think that they've done it brilliantly. They got the balance of it perfectly. I think that watching Erin and Jai in this film, watching it on set, you always have this kind of fear, will one character come across as just a straight victim, or one come across as just a barbarian with no humanity. They walk that line so perfectly. Well, I think by the end of the story, we really understand exactly the motivations and how they've accepted certain things and how they've got to this place. And the dynamic they created on set was incredible. And I think that what they've done performance-wise was just so brilliant. They couldn't have manifested the nuance around that topic more perfectly.
It was special. That doesn't happen that often. But you need to feel comfortable around each other, and we felt so comfortable around each other. By the time we started to film, we were such good friends, and that makes such a difference. But also, it's interesting because you said toxicity, and it's toxicity. It's so present, but it's so funny how I just feel like we don't like to associate toxicity with the fact that the magnitude of the toxicity is usually as a result of how strong the love was to begin with, right? So like, that's why it's happening to begin with, because they had this intense love, and there are people who are ill-equipped and don't know how to handle it. And it's heartbreaking because of that. But I think that, it's funny because when we were making it, the emotional component of it, and even watching it, but like, knowing what Clyde was going through, I knew Jai was doing a brilliant job because my heart was breaking for him, and he was simultaneously my suppressor, and that's exactly what we set out to accomplish. This very complicated dynamic that you can't put in a box that you desperately want to.
Well, and I really do love how it does capture all those layers. And Stuart, I will turn back to you next, because I did want to ask about casting Jai. I mean, he is someone who, he's been an action hero of sorts for so long, and I think this is one of my favorite performances of his to date. And he really does show, like you say, that barbarian side, but also, like Erin said, that really loving and caring side. So what was it like finding Jai essentially to really play this role?
Oh yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I don't know that story. He reminds me of Josh Brolin so much when I watch it. Yeah.
So we when the script was going out, the casting director said, look, Jai's agent had put him forward, said, they want to do a meeting. And I was like, wow, I mean, this guy's in huge stuff. I mean, I didn't think I would be able to get someone like Jai. And as soon as I spoke to him, within a few minutes of connecting with him, I could see, because Jai's got a very he's such a personable person, such a unique character, and he's very intelligent. You see him play these sort of big brutish roles, but Jai's very smart, and the way he spoke about the character, he understood that dichotomy of what it would take to show the nuance of this. Because the Clyde character, like all the characters in the story, are dealing with some childhood trauma, and he's the one who's really manifesting the worst parts of it. So within a couple of minutes, I remember because I'm in London, we got on a Zoom call, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, wow, that is Clyde, just visually. His energy, his thing, when he spoke with the nuance he did,
paradox.
I knew it was him. The same with Erin. As soon as I had the meeting with Erin, I was like, this is Gina. You just get a feeling. It's so difficult to describe sometimes. And you've got to trust your instinct. And, and it is, I think, honestly, I'm not just saying it because it's my film. I really think this is Jai's best performance. I think he's incredible in this film.
I think he's amazing. I think he's amazing. But it's funny because when I first met him, I felt the same way. I thought he is exactly what I expected him to be, and yet so not at the same time. This dichotomy and contradictory human who's like strong but goofy and has some soul, has an immense amount of soul. And within 3 minutes of meeting him, I thought, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. I'm bare minimum, I will be taken care of, and that's what you need on a film like this, because it's so vulnerable. Yeah.
It sounds like a really creative, rewarding experience for you both, having gotten to work with him. So I
we're all goofballs as well, so that helps, because it's a dark film and you need levity in there mixed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, even the throwing the water scene around felt like a nice little reprieve from some of the darkness. So
that's on the day when I was like, stop throwing it.
It is. It's the one bit of reprieve. In the whole film, it's still got slightly dark music. I couldn't let it be too Hollywood.
You couldn't like just this. No. And also, it's the darker moments where you find yourself laughing the hardest in between, isn't it? Because you need that. It's like a human coping mechanism. them. But no, it's good. Yeah.
So I did also want to ask Erin, as someone who I personally have no drawing or painting skills whatsoever, I know how challenging that can actually be. And I'm curious, I mean, that is so ingrained into Gina's character, you know, with finding a way to almost escape this isolated world that she's in. I'm curious what it was like for you exploring that side of her, and whether you yourself are like had to really practice to try and make it feel as authentic as possible.
I definitely practiced to try and make it feel as authentic as it could feel, but I did not draw those drawings. I did not draw them. I have to say that my way into that character's like gravitational pull towards that hobby, and that I think like catharsis even, I had to find what the emotional meaning of it was for her. That was the most important part for me, because there's so many characters that we get and we don't know how to, like, I played a character once and I had to know how to ride a Harley Davidson. I don't know how to do that, but what that means to that character. So what this means to Gina, it's cathartic. It's like, she's suppressed, and so she's able to subconsciously and then consciously allow her suppressed internal thoughts and psyche come out onto the page. And so it was a matter of learning how to make it look accurate on screen, because that's a big pet peeve of mine, when people do things in a way that I like taking a granular approach, and I think you do too. Like, we want it to look as real as possible, of course. So I wanted to do that. I can't take credit because the drawings were beautiful and they were not drawn by me. I was able to mimic them, but it was about finding the whys behind that no pun intended, draw. And I think it was the whys were very emotionally sourced in some real foreshadow, actually.
I will say though, when Erin first got on set, we were practicing. Do you remember those paintings you've done? They were actually really good.
I do. Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know. I think it's because through Gina, I was feeling so much that, like, I may have been able to have done something via her that I couldn't have done as Erin. But that's what's cool about acting. It's like you access these parts of yourself that you're not aware exist, and maybe they won't come back. And I don't mind that, because it means that, like, I feel like I tapped into her in that moment. But yeah, it was about what it meant to her and the gravity of what it meant to her, and therefore why she makes this connection and why it really just opens her eyes. It seems like it's a trivial thing, but it means so much to someone in her position.
Well, you do so well to capture it authentically, and I love that you had that connection, that it even led to you painting some things for yourself. So I see I'm out of time already, so I will get on out of here. But thank you both so much for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it and look forward to getting the word out about the movie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
When I was 12 and a half years old, my mama put $10 in my hand and told me to look after myself. I did as I was told.